Good morning. I'm getting started early with a little bit of coffee to wake me up, and I am in my van. Haven't gone anywhere. I did come out to check and make sure that that window that I installed over there had not fallen off in the past couple of days. It's holding steady, so I'm going to go ahead and take the tape off today. I'm very happy to report that I just heard from Van Windows Direct last night that the windows that they had told me would not be in until the end of the month have actually shipped, so I'm going to have those in a couple days. I'm going to go ahead and finish up the install of my VanTop 610 rear view camera. It's also a dash cam, but I'm using it primarily for backing up and for my rear view. My van did come with a regular rear view mirror, which some of them don't, but it just is not giving good visibility. And I surprisingly did not get a rear view camera with my van. That's the 2017 Promaster 2500 basic version. It doesn't really have any bells and whistles, no cruise control, nothing like that. I'm going to need to add some creature comforts that I'd like, but I definitely for safety want to have a good rear view camera. So I'm installing the VanTop. I will show you how that goes, and particularly the wiring into the fuse box, which is something that I literally scratched my head over for days, asked several questions on forums, didn't always find the right answer, but finally somebody stepped in to help with the one key answer that I needed, which was which fuse I could use to pair it with, since I didn't have the exact fuse, but I'll get into detail on that in just a few minutes. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do this morning. Stay tuned, and happy to have you along for the ride. The VanTop was recommended to me through one of my van life Facebook groups, and I initially ordered this 612. It's a dash cam and a backup camera, and it's also got GPS and voice recognition and some other features that I found a little bit overwhelming. And I found somebody that actually bought the 610. And the big difference between the 612 and the 610 is that the 610 is a 10-inch mirror and the 612 is a 12-inch mirror. Plus the 612 has those extra features that I just mentioned. So here is the VanTop camera. I have the engine turned on, so it's actually displaying what is behind my van right now, which is bushes. It comes with a front-facing camera, a dash cam, and that actually can be activated in the event of a crash, which is pretty cool. That is the rear view before the VanTop. Here's the back of the VanTop. It comes with these heavy-duty plastic clips and then these rubber brackets that wrap around the back of the mirror. So this is what these rubber clips look like. And they're just stretchy, and there's a couple different options for where you can attach it, either right here or right here, depending on the size of the mirror. So those rubber gaskets just wrap around the back right here. It looks a little funny sticking up right here, so I don't know, I may just tuck it in possibly or clip it off. I'm not sure, to make it look a little bit better. But there's the camera. It just hangs right off the original rear view. Now coming out of the top right now, I have a cord that runs down here into the cigarette lighter. I am replacing that with a Hardwire Kit. And then this cable actually goes all the way to the back of the van and attaches to the camera. So this is a wired camera. It's not wireless, but I'm going to go ahead and run this cable up through the headliner here and around and down back by the door. I bought an extension kit that gives me an extra 20 feet of wire, so I actually would be able to go down around the side on the other side of the driver's seat. And instead of running along through the floor here where I have it right now, I don't really want any wires right there if I can help it. So I'm going to come back up the side here and into this upper channel, which is where I think I will be running most of the wiring for the van, and then back out. And I did spend a little bit of time debating whether I wanted to send the camera up through that light right there, which is where most vans have a rear view camera. I thought about drilling out a little hole in the plastic and putting it up high, but I actually now have it duct taped to the back of the van. The wire, you can see it's running through one of the tail light slots, but I'm going to take off the outside of the license plate cover and attach it there. This is the extension cable I bought. You can get it from Amazon, and it's just a standard extension cable for the backup camera. It is made by VanTop specifically for their cameras, but I think it would probably work with other cameras as well. This is the Hardwire Kit that I bought from VanTop, also via Amazon, and I got the V9F version. I did not realize when I purchased this that there's a different version, the V9H. Both kits come with a set of fuses that fit these fuse taps, and there are different size fuse taps depending on which vehicle you have. I believe that this is the correct one for my Promaster. I think it's a mini fuse tap. And then the cable with the wiring. And I had been watching some really good videos on installing the V9H, which actually comes with two wires. One goes to an always-on fuse and the other goes to an accessory fuse. This version only goes to the accessory wire, and so what I'm missing is the other wire, which is a yellow wire in that kit. But I'm going to show you how to install this kit, which, based on information I got from VanTop, I had a panic moment, and I reached out to them thinking I had the wrong kit altogether and asked if I could use this on the Promaster, and they said actually either one would work just fine. So instead of paying a stupid tax for something that I can't return because I bought it too long ago, I'm going to go ahead and use the one that will work and save myself a little bit of money. The Promaster has a couple of different fuse boxes. This one here is located right under the dash, and you just need to unscrew and pop that out, and then you can see all of the fuses in here. Unfortunately, they are not labeled, so I had to do a lot of digging to find a fuse diagram that was appropriate for this van. Hello, birdies. The manual that came with my van is just the consumer version, and there is online a commercial version that's got a lot more information for upfitters and that sort of thing. I was able to use that and get the diagram that I needed for the fuse box to identify the right fuses. So here is just a printout of that fuse diagram. This fuse right here I thought I might need, but that would be the yellow wire if I had the other kit. I'm going to use fuse F48, which, if you look on the chart here, F48 is a 20 amp yellow fuse that goes to the passenger power windows, and that means that it's only on when the vehicle is on. I can't use the one for the rear camera, even though I don't have a rear camera, because that's only a 5 amp fuse. And from what I understand, you can pair a higher fuse with a lower fuse, but not the other way around. So using the diagram, I am locating the fuse, and as I showed you, it's F48, which is this yellow fuse right here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull it out with my fuse pillar. I do have everything turned off in the van. My keys are not in the ignition or anything like that. I just don't want to take any chances with blowing anything out. And it pulls out just like that. Now, obviously, I need to use the same size fuse. Can't use the big one, can't use the tiny one, so I'm going to use the one that matches up with the yellow right there. It's a 15 amp fuse, and like I said, this is a 20 amp fuse, the yellow one, so I'm going to have 2 different fuses in the box, and hopefully, if I do it right, that won't cause any problems. Before I do that, I do need to connect the wire from the cable here, the red to the red. And they make that pretty easy because there are little brackets right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and snap that in there. Right there. And then there's a sleeve right here that can go up and over that end. And then this sleeve will come over here. All right, and then that should be good and watertight and ready to install. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the fuses in the fuse tab right here. The original fuse is going to go in the bottom, which is right there. I'm just going to snap that in that section right there. Not wanting to go. All right, that was a little stubborn, but I've got it in there. And then my other fuse, which is my 15 amp fuse for the camera, is going to go in the top slot right there. Just like that. Now both fuses are ready to go in, and I can actually insert this into the fuse box. Now when I connect this, I'm actually going to come up from underneath the box here and run it this way so I can put the cover back on the fuse panel and hide everything nicely. I took off this little panel here hoping that I'd find a screw I could use as the ground. I also need to run the wiring through here and down this way, so I'm going to take off some of the other panels. But I didn't find a screw, and it says that I can use any screw in the vehicle. It doesn't actually have to be connected to the chassis. So I'm going to go ahead and do my ground back here. I'm going to run this up through the bottom here. I'm going to plug it in right there, which is the slot 48, just like that. So that's installed. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in and see what happens. Okay, so the cord that goes to the cigarette lighter is plugged in right there. I did unplug that, obviously, before I started working on things just to be safe, but I'm going to go ahead and take that out. And then I'm going to go ahead and plug in the Hardwire one right there. And the camera's coming on because it does have a battery backup, but go ahead and now I'm going to turn on the engine in just a minute and see if it works. Well, I got a problem. My power windows are not working, so something is not right about my fuse setup. I'm going to plan B. I am going to put fuse 20 back where it belongs right here, and then this fuse up here is F51 for my rear view camera, which doesn't exist, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that and try the fuse tap in there and see if it works. Again, I am not an electrician, so some of this is just hope and pray, but cross your fingers for me. All right, so fuse 20 is back in slot 48. I'm not going to use the tap there. I pulled the 5 amp fuse here, which is for the rear view camera, which I don't have. So I'm not going to use a second fuse in the fuse tab. I'm just going to use that 15 amp fuse in the top slot here, leave the bottom empty, and see if that works. Oh boy, the camera's still not working, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research. I guess the windows do work, so that's good. At least I put the fuse back in and didn't screw that up. Okay, my frustration factor is increasing. I tried F48, which was the fuse that I thought would work based on some feedback I got. I tried this one, taking out the 5 amp fuse and just using the 15 amp fuse. That didn't work. Tried the other 15 amp fuse with the fuse tab, which is F36. None of those are working, and I'm kind of at a loss for what to do other than maybe trying an empty fuse slot. Like, for example, this F89 right here. It shows on the diagram, but it's not on my list of fuses, so I don't know if that's going to work or not, but I don't suppose it can hurt at this point to try it. I've tried everything else, and if that doesn't work, then I'm back to the drawing board. Well, I've been having a day, but I'm finally redeeming myself. I thought this would be just like a 5-minute job, just go pick the right fuse and plug it in and it would work, but it didn't. And what was happening is I was given the advice that I could pair an existing 20 amp fuse with the 15 amp fuse for the camera, and that did not work even though I had the fuses in the right position in the fuse tab. I tried using the 15 amp fuse alone in the fuse tab in the fuse slot that was designated for the original, or what would have been the backup camera had my van come with one. So I took out the 5 amp fuse, and that didn't work. And I was also told that if I paired the 5 amp fuse with a 15 amp fuse, that the 5 amp fuse would blow. So I didn't want to do that. And then I tried that in an empty fuse slot, thinking, okay, maybe the problem is the wiring for the camera, and if I use an empty fuse slot, maybe that would work. It didn't. And I got to thinking about it, and I thought, well, there's 2 fuses in the fuse tab, and it's probably not completing the circuit, only having 1 in there. So I ran to the auto parts store with my precious little 15 amp fuse, and somehow managed to drop it under my seat twice on the way there and back. But I picked up a little set of fuses, including a 15 amp fuse, and now I've got a couple extras if one blows. And I came back and I put the 2 15 amp fuses in the fuse tab, and I tried that in the empty fuse slot, and it worked, but it occurred to me that I don't know if that fuse slot is always on, which would drain the battery. Obviously, when the key's out, I can't tap into those. I had to go into an accessory fuse slot. So I thought I'll go back to where the fuse is established for the rear view camera, pull the 5 amp fuse, and then put 2 15 amp fuses in the fuse tab and put that in, and it worked. So I hope all that made sense, but basically I couldn't follow the exact instructions provided by VanTop because I didn't have enough 15 amp fuses. My car did not come with a rear view camera, although it did have a 5 amp fuse and a fuse slot designated for that. I pulled that out, pulled the 5 amp fuse right here, replaced it with a 15 amp fuse, and then also the 15 amp fuse for the camera itself. I've got a complete circuit. The camera is up and running. It does run without an SD card, and I went ahead and tucked away the wires. They do come out from the roof and into the camera, but I've tucked them up under the headliner here along the edge of the windshield, and tuck it in also around the corner there. But it goes in behind this trim and down along the side of the door here. And then I've got the wires also coming out from the fuse box, and they go around here. And I've shared this wiring harness that's pre-existing. I've run the cable through and around under here. You can see a little bit there, and then it goes around and through the back. And now with the trim reinstalled, looks almost as good as new. The fuses, gosh, what a problem. The law of van build is that everything takes 10 times longer than you think it will, and it's 50 times more complicated. At least that's been my experience so far, but I'm learning and having fun. Believe it or not, I am having fun.